Welcome to the Chain Out Podcast with your hosts, Jeremy and Daryl.
Hey everyone, welcome to Chain Out Podcast. I'm Jeremy. That guy over there is Daryl. And for the next 2 hours, we're going to give you a ton of Canadian disc golf content. So grab a cool drink, find a cool place on this hot day, and let's get into it, Daryl. How you doing, buddy?
I'm taking your advice. I got a cool drink. I found a cool place. And I'm wearing a cool shirt as well.
You certainly are. It finally arrived. Your folk jersey is here and does it. It looks good, man. I like it.
It looks good. BR logo on the front, BR on the back as well. Looking good. Feels good. Feels nice and cool. Nice fit. Not a sponsor, but it does feel good.
Well, it's a sponsor of our fantasy.
Sponsor of the fantasy league. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you got more than one jersey, didn't you, too?
I did. I was going to save that for tomorrow night. If anybody comes out to Rundle League,
Ooh.
I got the Edmonton EDGA jersey as well.
Nice.
Yeah, looking forward to wearing that. I wore it at the Edmonton Open, which teaser we might be speaking a little bit later on about. But yeah, pairing it with my EDGA bucket hat.
I saw you trying
the summer vibes.
I saw you trying to point there, and I still am amazed when we had Eden Badajos on.
Right.
And he was just like, here. Was that him? No, that wasn't him. That was Ryan Norquay, where he was just able to point to the discs above him and with perfection.
I've got my EDGA disc, and I've got my Thomas disc. There you go.
That's right.
How you been?
I've been doing good, but you know what normally happens on this hot day before we have a podcast on those days is you normally head out to the hills.
I do.
And did you go out in this weather?
I'm a man of all weather, Jeremy. Yeah, I went out. It was a good round. I got a chance to meet up with two of the local players that in the Hills League. I got to meet up with Graham. Shout out to Graham for allowing me to join up for my front six, their back six. And we also teamed up with Colton Lalonde, who is he's getting kind of famous for scoring aces, Jeremy. He got an ace at Rundle League.
Okay.
He got it after me, but, I was the first one to get an ace at Rundle League. But tonight, give him a shout out. Colton aced hole 6 at the Hills.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
And was that his first ace, or how did that go?
No.
Well, and I guess not his first ace because he would have got the Rundle one, so that would put him at 2 aces.
Yeah, he's got at least 2.
Yeah.
No, he's up to 26. Some people are hogging all the aces, Jeremy.
That's why I haven't been getting any, Daryl.
That's what it is, yeah. He said 18 or 20 of them would come at the Hills, so, they're kind of approach shots anyway, but hey, they all count.
Yeah, they do,
so, yeah,
definitely.
Congrats, Colton.
Well, while he was getting aces, I'm trying to get better at getting aces, Daryl. So I've been a little unhappy with my game. I've had a little bit of soreness up in here, which means I think I've been just ripping on the disc with my upper body and stuff. So
you're not quite happy with your game?
Yes. Wink, wink.
What have you been doing about it?
Well, what I did was I remember I did those winter lessons indoors with Gabe Piska.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the time he had mentioned that he does private lessons as well. So I looked him up and scheduled a private lesson last night. Gabe and I went out to one of your least favorite courses in the city. Good old Nor'Wester.
Yeah.
And I went out there and threw some discs, and he gave me, like half a dozen really good tips. And now it's that whole, you have a certain form that you've kind of gotten used to and set into. And it's trying to add those tips and pieces of advice into it and make the changes. Right. So I think my game's about to get a little worse in the effort to make it get better.
Okay. I'm glad you added that.
I don't want it to be a bad advertisement for taking lessons or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. No, if you're taking lessons from Gabe, you got a good teacher there.
Oh, he is. He's like so patient. I sent him that video that I posted on Instagram on my personal account with a bunch of throws for him to see. He was able to analyze them, look at them. It was kind of funny stopping some of them. So I don't want everyone to go and do this quickly, but there's a few where when I plant, I look like I'm a sumo wrestler. I've kind of put my feet like left and right to try and squat. So anyways, there's a lot of things this guy can work on to improve his game, which is good.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to, we play. If we don't get out more than once, we definitely get out at least once a week to play at Rundle League together.
Yes.
So I've seen I've seen your form and your game progress through the summer league. Hopefully, I'll start to see, it climb up a bit.
That's right. Maybe we should have waited till I started to get better before we advertised for Gabe's lessons, but
Yeah, exactly.
we'll see
It
how
just
it
got
goes.
worse and worse.
Yeah. Well, let's let everybody know what we got going on tonight.
Well, I just want to give a quick shout out to the chat.
Oh,
People
sure.
in the chat. We've got quite a few people in the chat. We got Mike Carey in the chat. We got Brendan McKinstry in the chat.
Not only Brendan, we got the kids as well, he says.
We got the kids, yeah, exactly.
So we got a chance to play with them. Yeah, so hey guys, high five.
High five, Jeremy. Sonia is always here. Mark Thompson's back in the chat again. So yeah. What have we got coming up on the episode today? Well, coming up in a few weeks' time, we're going to be talking about, or we're going to be talking about it tonight, but it's coming up in a few weeks' time.
Not even a few weeks. It's just over a week away.
Yeah, week and a half.
Yeah.
The Alberta Hospital Foundation, the Alberta Hospital Education. No, I don't know what AHE stands for. Alberta Hospital Fundraiser Tournament that's happening at the Alberta Hospital.
That's right. And then we've got our main event, which is the interview with Chad Gamelin.
Yeah. And this past weekend, I was lucky enough to be part of the Edmonton Open. So I'll give a quick rundown on what happened out there.
That's right. And then the Edmonton Open was held at the Sea Change Brewing Disc Golf Park at Bailey's Crossing. And we're going to do something that we haven't done for a long time, Daryl. And we're going to do a course review. I got it. Well, that's the first thing we're going to do. Yeah. The second thing is we're going to review that course, just like we did in the beginning days.
Yeah. Some of our OG listeners might remember that we actually used to do course reviews. So we're going to bring that back. Yeah. Also happening this weekend, I'm not going to be a part of it, but you are, is the Limber Open. So we're going to get a preview of what to expect down there.
And after that, make sure to start thinking of secret words as we're going through the episode, and any questions you have for us, we can cover those.
And then as always, we'll give you a recap and a preview of what the Canadians down on the GGPT are up to.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let me get my shot at this and try it.
Go for it.
The AHE fundraiser tournament, which it stands for Alberta Hospital Edmonton. It doesn't seem like the words are in the right order, but that's what it is.
There you go.
So this is going to be the second annual tournament that Brock Cicchetti has put on. And we talked about it when we had him on the show, Daryl. The effort that he puts into anything he does is amazing. And yet again, he's done that again. He's gone out there. He's created an amazing caddy book, an amazing tournament. He's got tons of sponsors. If you went last year, this year already looks like it's going to be a step above, which just being the same as last year would have been amazing. But he's even stepped it up another notch. So
we should just mention that the Alberta Hospital is where the Niska-Pasquak course is located, and that's where it'll be. Yes,
that's right. Yes, this is the only tournament that's at Niska-Pasquak. So if you ever want to play a tournament there, right now, this is the one.
Yeah. It's the, what do we call it? It's a semi-private. Like you have to be an EDGA member to go there and play it.
Yes.
But there's no fee for going to play. You just have to be an EDGA member.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and then with this tournament, there is an entry fee to it. And that entry fee is pretty much going as much as possible to support the Alberta Hospital and to give back to them and to help them proceed with their programs and such like that. So
yeah, it is the fundraiser, and that's what the whole goal of that tournament is for.
Yeah. And I figured I got a ton of points here, so maybe you and I can cover them together a bit. But one of the things is it's coming up on July 27th. I think it's about half full. So this is a real big push to anybody locally or who's, within an hour, however far you are away from Edmonton. Think about coming out. It's a one-day tournament with 2 rounds. You pay $60 to get in. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is this the back and forth part that I'm taking care of it all?
Let's tell them about it, Daryl, and I'll just proceed to say everything.
All right. Well, what I will say, and then I'll turn it over.
I'll fill in the blanks.
All right. $60 to get in. You get 2 rounds. You get lunch. And there's 4 divisions. There's a recreational. There's a competitive. And those are the layouts. So the recreational is more of a fun, just get into it. A competitive is if you really want to play Niska, but with a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, one teaser, hole 1, the normal hole 1 at Niska, the way he's setting it up is he's taking hole 1 and hole 2 and turning it into one big hole. So what it is you've got to throw all the way down past all the light standards for anybody who knows that. And then you turn all the way back to the basket for hole 2. And that's just one of the kind of cool things that Brock does to set up this tournament.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of those, like we were saying, it's a 1-day, 2-round tournament. So for any of those people that can't make it out to a 3-round, 2-day tournament or a 3-round, 3-day tournament, this is a perfect tournament for, if you've only got 1 day to spare, this is the tournament to go for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got that. You're going to get a premium Innova disc with the Niska Pisquak logo on it, which is a really cool logo. There's a silent auction for exclusive discs. There's tons of raffle prizes and like kind of raffle prizes you don't normally see at events, or at least I haven't.
Yeah.
As we talked about, the caddy book's really cool. What else do you want to hit on that one? What do you think?
Yeah, you mentioned that there's new hole layouts. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a 20-hole event. I think Brock added 2 new holes. He's combined 2 holes to make a longer hole.
Yep.
Definitely making it longer event than it was last year. The rounds, he said, went pretty quickly. So that will be exciting. So if you've ever played Niska, don't think that, it's a standard course. You've played it before. What's the point in doing it? Because you're going to hit some tricky holes, some new holes, new layouts that you've never played. So
yeah. And friend of ours, friend of the show, Mark Thompson in the chat there, just so he knows, I'm sure he's looked at the caddy book and saw, but hole 3 used to be an island where if you missed the island, you had to take a stroke and re-tee and take a stroke and re-tee. He's made it a little bit better, so it shouldn't blow up Mark's whole round this time or anybody else's, because I believe it's try to hit the island and then you just take shot 2 and try to hit the island, something like that. I think it's a little bit different. So
I don't think Mark is going. He wanted to see the caddy book because he's not able to go to this event because it's his birthday. So happy birthday for next weekend, Mark. And Brock just updated. There's 21 holes, 4 new ones.
Oh, okay, 4 new ones.
Let's give a shout out for the some of the prizes that we can get, because like you said, the raffle prizes normally are discs and baskets and things like that.
Yes,
we definitely have those in this these raffle prizes, but all prizes were donated. So I don't want to say put it in order and say this is the top prize, but like the way we've listed it, one of the prizes is a round of ball golf with power carts at Cattail Crossing Golf and Winter Club, and that's where the Winter League, the putting league was, right?
Yeah, that's exactly where it took place. So that's a really cool collaboration that's continued since Putting League. Yeah. There's a set of Apple AirPod Pros.
Yeah. Innova disc catcher EZ.
Easy.
I know it's meant to be easy, but I always hate that letter. Practice basket.
Innova cold weather playing kit, Google Home Mini smart speaker, Lindt chocolate gift basket.
Jeremy doesn't trust me anymore.
You're talking about letters.
To Edmonton Elks, Edmonton Riverhawks, Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, Laser City Laser Tag, and Snow Valley Target Golf.
And gift certificates to Save on Foods and Old Spaghetti Factory. If we haven't sold you yet, there's nothing else we can do.
Loads of prizes.
To the AHE event.
There you go.
We'll see you there.
Like you said, silent raffles, discs, everything is there. Food. What more do you want?
That's right.
Okay.
Daryl, we got a great guest, and let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
This week's guest is a local Edmonton Disc Golf Legend. A PDGA member since 2009, but playing much longer than that. He's represented Canada at WFDF events in Vancouver and won gold in Colchester, United Kingdom. If you want to know about EDGA's history, he is one of the OGs who can tell you. Let's bring Chad, the Game, Gamelin onto the podcast. I was going to say show podcast, either or.
Podcast, it's all the same.
Yeah, I see him.
I bet he's watching us on YouTube.
Yeah, he probably was watching us on YouTube in that 20-second lag that we know about.
Hey, Chad, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Good. So, Chad, don't worry about that. Were you watching us on YouTube there?
I was a little bit, just making sure I had this thing set up properly, but
oh, you did a great job with it too. It's one of those things is definitely when you're coming on live, it's tough to make sure it's all set up properly. So it's good to have you on the show. How you been doing? You have been on our list of guests that we've wanted to bring on for quite a while now, and we're excited to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. The body's been better, but getting older, it's
Yeah.
part of it, I guess.
Getting older sucks, right? They say youth is wasted on the young.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
I guess disc
well,
golf
getting
is worth wasting your life on. I've heard that before too.
There you go.
yeah, I'd agree. Well, getting into that, yeah, you said recently you've had a bit of an injury that you've been getting over. How are things going with that? Because I think this is probably one of your first injuries you've had in disc golf, is it?
Yeah, not quite.
Oh,
Is my volume okay?
yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
You can hear me okay? Yeah, well, always had back issues since I've been a teenager, but the arthritis in the hips. But just recently, and that is 2.5 years ago, where I injured my elbow, cracked some bones off. So I got fragments in my elbow, and it when I antagonize it, it just flares up and swells, and it prevents me from moving my arm pretty much. So it's
Is
been
it
a long process dealing with, you know, the hospitals and CAT scans and all that, but it's supposed to be within the next 2.5 months getting orthoscopic surgery and pulling those bits out of there.
right? Is it something that's flared up in the past before and you've just kind of had to let it settle down and wait till it heals again?
Pretty much. Well, River City's just the past. River City was the first tournament in 25 years that I pulled out of due to injury. Um, all the same, kind of, through all the league rounds the last couple years, like I'd tag it, like irritate it, and it
Yeah.
would be, bug me for a day and be back to kind of what it was. But just the first round of River City went through the same kind of motions and felt the same bits of pain, but it just, swelled up like a baseball that night, and I just I couldn't move it. So
Wow.
that was kind of tough dropping out of that tourney and, dropping out of the following one, the Edmonton Open last weekend. And we'll see. We'll see about the future ones. Lost Egg is kind of up in the air. Like I just, you get to that point of, burning the tires off the car because you're going to get some new tires kind of thing, right?
Right.
So I'm not too sure what that motion is going to be like, but I got a couple days to decide about Lost Egg and
Is that kind of what
fight
the
that
prognosis
fire.
is, that you should just not do anything now until your surgery? Or is it a case of you're okay to play as long as you don't aggravate it too much?
Well, it's kind of like having, I'm not sure how much more I can injure it. Like it's kind of like having, same with the hips, it's kind of like having sandpaper in there, right? It's just,
Wow.
you know, grinds down to a point. Like, it hurts to go through those motions, but I don't think it's not like I'm, you know, cracking more bones off or anything. It just happens to be, that's what I think happened at River City, is one of those fragments must have got just into that rough spot that flared it
Right.
up. But I've been massaging my elbow and hoping to get the fragment somewhere where it was before, that I could at least, play around and,
Yeah.
wait a day and get another one in. But that's where it's at right now, anyway.
Right.
Well, and I think even when we talked to Chad previously, you'd said you were even considering going so far as to throw left-handed for the rest of that River City Cup to stop yourself from dropping out of it. But it was just that bad that even a left-handed throw was going to cause pain. Is that kind of how it was set up?
Yeah, I'd have to. My arm was stuck at a 45-degree angle. I could tape it up to my body and give it a shot, but uh, it would have been a little bit tough on the ego, I guess. But I tried with my left last year for a bit and started injuring other parts of my body, so I kind of put that to rest.
Yeah, when your body's so used to turning one way to try and make it do another motion, yeah, it can probably hurt some different things. But if we can, what I'd like to do is I want to hear how you got into disc golf, but I've created a little bit of an origin story for you for the listeners to kind of guess maybe what type of movie I'm tying your origin story to, and maybe there's some coincidence to how it relates to you. So I'm going to talk for a little bit here. You think about how you got into disc golf, and let's see where we go. So maybe in the early 2000s, you were invited to try out for an elite organization of disc golfers. This organization had been known in Edmonton, but the world had a lot of cues about who they were and what they could do. I could put at least a little money penny on Edmonton's chances to win back in those days. With your natural ability and some training, you quickly received your license to skill. You and many other Canadian agents, including Craig Sheather, teamed up and took your discs to Colchester in the United Kingdom, where the world was not enough to stop you from winning gold, and you've been playing at an elite level ever since. Now, maybe that's not quite how you got into disc golf, Chad, but why don't you tell us?
Yeah, close. So it would have been in 90, 91. Well, grew up in Gold Bar, South Central, and always knew those baskets were there. Rundle had the 9 saucer, the solid, like a spinning top kind of baskets there. They had 9 of those baskets down there. So saw them over the years, kind of growing up, and never even knew what they were. I don't think anybody knew what they were. But one of my friends went and played, and so that kind of hooked us a bit. We're playing with frisbees, playing with we each had an Alti disc and a Canadian Tire disc and a gas station disc. So even in the sort of Alti world, there was discs that were doing different things. So we played pretty much 5 years with those discs, never seeing anyone down at Rundle. Like, we were the only ones using those baskets. And I started working for the city in the River Valley in 95. So I was kind of around to all the parks and saw it was Gil Velasquez and Steve Mallet. This is when I was in Horlack, and they had a disc stuck in a tree. I saw them doing something, so I pulled my truck out and saw them trying to fish something, and whipped over to our city yard and got our gas dipsticks and got the disc out of the tree and just landed and said golf disc on it, and collaborated a bit from that point. And Steve gave me a couple discs at that point in the meetup, and never used a frisbee after that, until that single disc round when Matt made us use one on the 5th hole. We threw one there, but yeah, just so that was it from that point. And then Steve's crew, there's probably 8-10 guys that was kind of pretty consistent playing there in like 96, 97, and played my first tournament, I believe was 97 in Horlack while I was on shift. And yeah, just from that point, just followed in Steve's wake there, what he had going on, and got hooked up with the Calgary guys, and that was it.
Right.
So are you saying then at that time in Horlack there was a disc golf park back then? And was it baskets or tonals, or what was it like?
So at that point we just had Rundle and a few spots of just tone courses, like the trees at Horlack, just putting some caution tape on 18 different trees down there and just played through the park that way. And
Wow.
And then would you go out in those times and kind of make up courses? Like, would the holes be the same every week, or would you kind of mix it up and try new things?
yeah, it's been a while ago, but the trees were always the same. The targets we shot at, I don't remember exactly what we were using for tee pads, but as far as markers, but those probably moved around a little bit. But Horlack is, imagine how busy Rundle is on the weekends. Horlack was, unplayable on weekends. So
Right.
same as Rundle at this point, you got to be pretty time specific if you want to get a fluid round in.
Yes.
And was it just Horlack that had the tape on at the time there, or did anyone try and make a course somewhere else apart from Rundle, obviously?
At Capilano Park, which is just across the river from Rundle at this point. Tree courses there, lampposts.
Wow.
But
anything you can throw a disc at
the
name
major
at.
two.
Nice. Well, and speaking of that, one of the things for Daryl and I, right, being fairly new to disc golf, being just after COVID and now 2-3 years into it, we know EDGA has been around a while, and checking their website, disc golf has been around, like you said, with those top baskets at Rundle since the 1980s. It was just more of a casual game, but they kind of say on there that in 1998 was the first River City Open, which is now the River City Cup. And you were around at those days. Did you play in those first events? And what was I guess I got a number of questions, but let's start with, did you play in those first events? And what was the club like in those early days when it first formed?
Yeah, I played in every River City Cup except for the Canadians that was out at Lily Lake. I was out of town working at that point and couldn't make that one happen. But yeah, so the club, even the tourneys back in those days too, like those initial ones, just having 3 divisions. So you had pro, open, and beginner. So those were your 3 options. And it probably stayed that way for, 10 years almost, I would say.
Wow.
Till early 2000s, where it's, even, tougher to run events at that point too, when you're putting on the event. You have no idea how many people are showing up. It's always the morning of, right?
Right.
So you show up to the desk, I'm open, or I'm pro, or whatever, right? So you could have 50 people, or you could have 100. You just wouldn't know. So it's pretty tough on the organizers to figure that part out, but we did. A lot of people to help back in that time. So
How were those events advertised? Like, how did everybody know? Obviously, there was no. I mean, I'm assuming there was no internet, or there was no disc golf scene back in those days. Were you getting people coming in from out of town?
well, good question.
People just showed up. You build it, and they will come.
Like between us and Calgary and Lethbridge too, 'cause, you had a lot of like we had Steve Mallet here. I'm trying to think of who was running stuff at Calgary at that time. You had it's tougher coming up with names now.
Yeah.
But,
For sure.
It's been a while.
Craig
Yeah.
Burrows Johnson and Lethbridge and Steve had known each other. So I think there's kind of the collaboration through them that kind of made up. There's kind of, I guess, an Alberta tour that was started in 2000, I guess. So there's kind of like six major tournaments.
Right.
And it was just pretty much word of mouth. I don't think everyone knew if you were golfing, you kind of knew when and where those tournaments were. But
yeah, now thinking about it, everybody had phones. We had landlines, we had phones, right? So, like you said, word of mouth, people communicating, everybody saying, "Oh yeah, book this weekend off. That's the weekend of the River City Open, right? Book this weekend off. That's the weekend for that." So yeah, word of mouth would spread the news of all the tournaments.
Yeah, I could see that, Daryl. It would have been probably like a dialing for dollars and maybe bringing out handouts and flyers as well with phone numbers on the bottom back to those days. I'm guessing it
That
might have
sounds
been.
pretty sophisticated. Yeah.
That's awesome. So in the beginning there too, you were saying there was only about 8 or 9 guys regularly playing disc golf back at the start of the when EDGA was formed.
Well, the core guys for sure in the the 97, 98, because we'd always have our league. It wasn't like a weekday league. Like it was Sunday doubles was always that kind of number. Between 10 and 16 to that point there. The sure the probably first big kind of boost of players would have been in that 2002 2003, that kind of era there, when the friends of friends started kind of spreading out enough for it to show an impact down there.
Right. Well, I know you just mentioned Sunday doubles, and I've gone out to play Sunday doubles, and that's cool in the fact that that's like an original part then of Edmonton disc golf history. Is you go out on Sunday now with Tim Sherman or whoever's organizing it that specific weekend. That's been going on pretty much straight since the beginning.
Yeah, over 25 years for sure. The weekly league, I would say probably 20 years or so, probably, for the weekly league in the mid 2000s or so, when that one started.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, over the years, I'm guessing that at some point, with only that many people in there, you ended up sitting on the board. And at some point during that time frame, did you?
Popping in and out of the board. I'm not someone who puts myself kind of out in the forefront. So, I've run, leagues over the year, like Sunday, doubles league. Not that takes much to run, but it takes a little bit of, this is kind of what's going on Sunday kind of stuff. But yeah, on the board here and there through the times, but more or less kind of filling in till the right person came along.
Right. Kind of always willing to, maybe you didn't want to be, like you said, in that leadership role, but you were always there in that supportive role. Hey, you guys need somebody for a couple months, I'm there for you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, always there for digging holes and mixing concrete and laying out of all the sort of the progression of the different courses we've had since that original 9 holes. Just always just been around.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, and I guess with that as well, so in the beginning days compared to
just having trouble listening. I'm gonna throw my headphones on.
Yeah, no worries at all. I'm just loving all this history, Daryl.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's
Okay, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah,
yeah,
we can hear
we
you
can
great.
hear
Oh, now I can hear you guys. It was okay, here we go.
Perfect. Well, you were doing good if you weren't hearing us that well. So what I was going to ask you next, Chad, was, so in the beginning days, the club was smaller. There wasn't a ton of people. And now we've grown to over 400. There's got to be some things that were great about the old days and maybe some things that you miss. And there's got to be some things that you like about the new days. Can you tell us anything about that with the growth from being a small club to the size of the club we have now?
It's pretty amazing, but it that kind of stuff comes down to the acceptance, just the way disc golfers are, just wanting to show people what you're doing, and being excited about the sport. And you do that to 5 people, maybe 2 or 3 of them stick around, and just kind of spreading out that way. But with the presidents that we've had, with Wally O'Valley and Scott Annett, Rob Lychuk, and Tim Plamond, and now they're they're the right people in those positions to bring people in, just to keep people into. There's people that come down and try it and maybe not sure, but you have those people in those roles, and they keep people around too. And
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Is to, like you said, bring people into the sport, and where hopefully you get more people sticking around than you do leaving the sport, which I think is what Tim has mentioned since he's been president, that the growth has gone up every year.
certainly well, I'm sure it's all over the world what COVID did and what people were allowed to do during those times. And Hermitage came along at the right time. It would have been nice to have it a little bit earlier to accept that kind of surge we had, but like trying to go down Arundel on the weekend, not only with the course being full, but just the random picnickers and just the park use itself, it was pretty good timing.
Yeah. That's a funny thing, even to this day, how many people are still unaware of disc golf. Like you said, with the picnickers and other people taking selfies in the middle of a fairway and not realizing they're there. Now, one thing I'll tell you is you're right about the enthusiasm, because Daryl has witnessed it firsthand with me. Is somebody will come up and say, "Hey, do you know where the next hole is?" And Daryl's pulling me away like 10 minutes later. "Jeremy, the guy just asked you where the next hole is. He doesn't want to know all the discs to buy and where to get his gear and all of those things." But I think that's the thing about disc golfers, and what I've enjoyed about it is we're all so passionate about the sport and ready to share it. And I think that's what helps the growth.
Definitely. I do have to curb myself a bit when I'm, meeting people out there, but I kind of attribute it to bowling. If I went out bowling, and I'm throwing a couple bowling balls, and this guy beside me is just showing him in his full bag of bowling balls and how awesome it is and what you can make this bowling ball do, and you should join our league. And so I try to come in a little bit calmer and say my piece. But
Yeah.
Yes, Daryl, I'm noting this down. I'm writing this down.
Let's clarify here. It's not, some random casual event or, round of disc golf we're playing. It's normally when we're playing league and we've got a cart of 4 behind us and we're already walking up the fairway. Then somebody comes up to you, and then it's then I'm pulling you away. I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from getting into disc golf. What I was going to say is, the good thing about disc golf is that it's just so accessible. It's a common thing to say, all you need is a couple of discs and the course is free. Just get out there and throw. We all know, a couple of discs can lead into quite an expensive sport, but at its base level, any other sport where you're buying equipment, you're renting fields, you're paying green fees, like there's so many extras that go into it. It's just a great sport that's accessible for any skill level, any age, and it can be inexpensive.
Well, for sure. Well, I imagine if it's at league and you're talking to someone on the fairway, there's probably 5 or 6 groups backed up behind yours. So I imagine you are.
That's why you and I haven't probably played yet together, Chad. you're
I'm
gonna have to keep me on track.
Show up.
That's why Chad's group goes out early.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Chad, one of the things we did is we kind of looked at your PDGA history, and we're not going to make you try and recite everything about it, but we wanted to talk about a few of the events and tournaments that you've been in, just because they struck us as kind of interesting ones and different things that were happening. So one of the ones we were looking at was actually 2 of them were in Kamloops. Was in 2009, you went to the Ultra Glide tournament, and Dave Feldberg was at that one, and Nate Sexton was at that one. And then in 2011, you went back to Kamloops for Nationals, and Dave was there again. Will Schustrick, Eric McCabe, Paul Oman, Paige Pierce, they were all at these events, and they were in Canada, and you were playing with them. What was it like back then in those events?
Those events were the kind of go-to for those years. Like Carrie Neal was running those events, and just, amazing the amount of planning that goes in. Like they're 4 times the amount of people that we're having in Alberta events. Like those Canadians and those glide tournaments were just huge. And to be able to like in order to bring those players up here, there has to be a prize pool as well, right? It's there has to be added cash too. Well, for A tier, I'm not sure what the requirements were back then, but you need to have that kind of money to bring those players at, and those were the first kind of eye-opening events on how far these guys can actually throw. You know what I mean? Like a lot of our guys in Runda here now are throwing, 150 feet further than easily than we were all throwing back in the day, even when I was younger. They're pretty eye-opening there. You mentioned so that first one, the 09 one with Felberg and Sexton, I had shot pretty well in that first round. So the second round I was in the card with Felberg and Sexton, and I'm not sure, it was another American that was the fourth on our card, but not really knowing who they were. Felberg was a world champ at that point too, but like I knew Felberg, but Sexton had no idea. Just until it was like it was like 2015, 2016, and Sexton, and like still had no idea that I'd played with them, and then went back and I was like looking through those stats, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that was kind of fun. But I shot a really good first round, and apparently Felberg didn't. He was only a couple strokes, I think, ahead of me, and that second round was as windy as you could imagine up at Rose Hill. And I'm pretty sure he shot the course record that day. Like he had to have smoked me by 15 strokes.
Wow.
That second round. And I'm not sure where I ended up in that tourney from lead card after the first round to probably in the bottom third somewhere. But that was a pretty good experience there.
Well, if I can add to that, Daryl, I'm just imagining Tim Plamondon listening to this at a later point and going, yeah, Chad said Nate Sexton who? Right after all the Firebirds that he bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a few years before the Firebirds came out. And,
yeah. That probably would have been, when he was just an up-and-comer at that point.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how much. I'm probably 10 years older than Nate, I would think, but he wasn't that old. Shoestrick, when we met him the following year, like he looked like a 10-year-old kid out there throwing 550 feet. So,
and Paige would have been quite young at that point as well, would she have?
They were all. I don't remember meeting Paige, but that again in that time too, that was before their names were out there, right? So
yeah, you only knew of them because you heard
just like
about
we
it,
say,
but...
Jeremy, that in a few years' time we can say, oh yeah, Gavin Beamish, I played with him. I've played rounds with him, right? He's going to be hopefully he's going to be one of those names that is a bit more well known in the future.
Yeah,
right. And for that to happen, it takes you going out there and playing those A tiers to do it. Like to get a name. Like you could be the best player in Alberta winning all these tournaments, but if you're not traveling around to Canadians or popping into the States and playing the A tiers and playing against the higher rated players and seeing where you sit at that point, it's pretty tough to get a name.
Yeah, for sure. Well, another event that we had on the list, and we kind of mentioned it in the opening, was in 2017, you went to the WFDF World Team Disc Golf Championships, and you went all the way out to Colchester, United Kingdom. And we'd love to hear memories and stuff that you can tell us about that event.
Yeah, those were some good memories. Like the year previous was the WFDF World Championships in Vancouver. That was the first one. So we had our the team kind of made up there, and to be on the team, I'm not sure I think our captain was Dave Ross the first year, but so that was in Vancouver. We did, and the way that's set up, kind of the Ryder Cup setup where you play all your round robins and you get set into the sort of top 4 positions, and then it's, you know, 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3 kind of thing.
Right.
So
Okay.
we crushed the preliminary divisions. Like, we had more points, and it doesn't matter as long as you have 1 point more than second, you're in first, right? And then that's thrown out the window, and then it's kind of a sudden death round robin. So we did very well, and then we lost to New Zealand in the 1-4 round. So then we played Japan for the bronze, and then we lost that one.
Okay.
So we kind of had you know, some redemption to go to New England or England in the following year. And the team was basically the same. Like, it's a big commitment for these players to do it, because it's not like, you know, you're on the team and everything is covered, and, you know, flights and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
to be on the team, you have to be willing to do some elbow work, and it's the same with all the events on any tour, right? You have to love the sport. Like, you can end up with you know, a small pile of cash after a career of disc golf if you start with a huge pile of cash, right? So these events are you know, fundraising, and, you know, getting these guys that are willing to fight for you know, a gold medal for this country. It's quite a, you know, it's a commitment for sure.
Yeah.
So the following year, so we went to England the following year, and Wally actually came with me as a kind
Okay.
of a support role, and he ended up being quite useful out there with his tournament running experience. He was basically right in Tournament Central and organizing and helping those guys out down there. So they really
I can see
appreciated
that.
that, and helped me out a lot too. It's not like I have to, you know, show up at the airport there and, you know, find stuff on my own. It was, you know, it was a big help to have Wally there.
Yeah.
And went out there, yeah, Colchester. So the course is right on the university there. So you're going right through the dorms, and they set up a pretty cool kind of temp course through there. And just, you need a lot of things to fall into place, because it was the same sort of setup where you play the round robin and you get seeded, and then from that point your round robin points don't matter anymore. It's kind of sudden death. Like, your team is playing Sweden, and, you know, the US is playing or it might have been, if you were first, I think you got to pick who you wanted to play out of the next 3 teams. So there's that advantage of playing for us. And
Yeah.
Craig Sheather is a pretty good strategist, and putting the right players in at the right positions, because you'll have, you know, you'll be playing doubles match play in this one, and, you know, an FPO and an MP40 may be playing, you know, best shot doubles in this. So it's just matching up the players to who you're playing against, and yeah, did a good job, and everything fell into place, and we took down gold there. That was pretty cool experience.
Yeah. Got to give you a round of applause for that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. So we've got a disc golfer on the podcast who's won a gold medal for Canada, which is amazing. And as you mentioned about Craig Sheather, we had him on when we talked about the BC Open, and he was saying a couple of the same things as you were, in the fact that it was $5,000 per player just to get out to Australia for the tournament this year. And all of these players were committing and fundraising and doing those things to get there. And he must be a good strategist, because he's got a big team and he's excited. And I think they're going to do really well this year.
Well, I believe he's from Australia, right?
Yes.
So he's probably got a place to stay when he goes down there, unless he was kicked out of there. I'm not sure if he's allowed back in Australia. But the first team, the WFDF in 2016, I played against him. He had Australia had a player drop out, or I'm not sure how it worked out, but he ended up playing for subbing for one of the Australian players, and I let him beat me for that. Just we had already had first locked up, and I think Craig appreciated me doing that for him.
Oh, and are you guys still friends today? Do you catch up with him when you're out in BC, or?
Once I think he'd come out to maybe it was Rudy's or Lost Egg a couple of years ago. He came back out and
Right.
met up again there. But the BC, like like you guys know, doing these road trips are pretty involved, right? Like it's not just you're not just going out for the weekend. You need 2 days in front and a day off to get back on the back end, and
A day off to recover. You need so much.
yeah, the winters aren't long enough either for me to recover. But
Yeah.
Yes.
Just going back to those early days, like I don't know if it's any different now, but like how did you get picked to be on the team? Were you picked? Did you volunteer? Did you, how did that come about?
at that, so I'm not sure initially. So the Canada PDGA rep, name's escaping me at the moment, but at that point they had sort of a core 4 or 5 out of BC, so he was in contact with Dave Ross and all that, so they're like one of the top kind of rated players at that point. And I believe at that point I was probably one of and I got it like on those teams too. It's pro MP40, MP50. You need 4 open guys, 2 MP40, 2 MP50 FPOs and that kind of point. So as a MP40 is likely I had one of the higher ratings in Canada at that point too. So my name was put to them at that point. And then from the first year is kind of, grandfathered in for England. And similar, and just after England, I accepted the gold and it was fun, but there's so many, players that could be on the team. Across Canada too, right? So, I wanted to sort of, back out from that point, and
you achieved all you could in that division at that time. So yeah, want to share the love and let someone else take a chance.
Well, that's how I like to look at it too. But always injuries around the time you're not sure if you'd be at 100% what you want to be for. When it's yourself, it's I can go out to an event and grind through it kind of thing. But when you're being part of the team, you want to be 100% for the team, which is different. On a small scale doubles, if you're going into a doubles event and the knee's blown out, you'd for your partner you'd want like maybe replace me, like I'm only going to be 60% of myself kind of thing, right? So that's when the body started having its issues, was around that time, 2018, 19. And so is a little bit kind of relieving just having to think of myself and not wanting to pull down a team.
Right. Well, and then after you had done the WFDF, then that next year in 2018, you went to the PDGA Pro Masters Worlds in Kansas, and that looks like your one trip to Worlds. And we want to touch on that mainly because I really want to go to Am Masters Worlds next year. It's in Minnesota, and I'm trying to convince Daryl. So the more good information you can give us about it, the chances are I won't be going alone.
Well, start practicing. I'm pretty sure they have the same skills competition there, which involves, the skills. The skills part will be, they'll have 10 stations, or you got to, you know, throw a forehand roller, you have to throw a forehand, like a thumb or whatever. They'll have, you know, kind of 10 stations, and you get your points for that. And, you know, the minis is part of that, and putting's part of that. So the separate. So I imagine they have the same for Am Worlds. So start sharpening those minis up. And
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that. So see, I'm already getting good tips here, Daryl. I thought you
you
were
go.
just going down there to play in a tournament, but there's a lot more than just that.
yeah, just the pre things kind of leading into it. And I'm not sure where did you say it was next year?
Minnesota for the Am Masters Worlds.
Okay, so I imagine they run the same as the normal Masters Worlds, or just kind of event, you know, and each night they'll have the you know, everyone bringing out all their plastic, and you know, kind of a little fair, walking around with a cart to throw all your new discs in.
And then figuring out how you're going to get them on the plane home, that kind of thing. Bringing an empty suitcase. Hey, that might be a tip. Hey, bring an empty suitcase. Is that a good idea?
Absolutely. Well, with what airlines are charging for extra extra baggage now, for sure. Just bring your gaunch and an empty suitcase.
Yeah, just buy clothes at Walmart or something
Just
while you're down there.
Wash it all in the hotel sink.
Yeah.
Well, it's Am, so they'll probably have a player's pack for you that you can put on a t-shirt and some collared socks and just send you out on your way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Was there any big highlights for you of that Worlds when you went?
Yeah, it was fun. It was hot there. It was like, I don't know if humidity gets over 100, but it was crazy. Like just stepping out of the house at 4 a.m, and you're just drenched in sweat. You know, that was pretty tough. I started that event off really well. Like the first 4 holes are pretty technical, tricky holes, and I birdied 3 of the 4 of them.
Wow.
And then I kind of let my nerves get the better of me, and I didn't end up making the cut for the final day. But other than that, being with Mark Dakov, who has you know, been around for forever, the Calgary scene, and back and forth, he's kind of been you know, a rivalry for, you know, 20 years. And then he ended up moving back to New Zealand. He may be playing for New Zealand on that on the WFDF team thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had fun. We did I won my world mini title there, which is kind of a coveted thing in the mini world. Mark got me into that with he has 3 world titles, and with Simon Freese, who's you know, part owner of RPM Discs.
Right.
There, it's you don't walk around Worlds without a mini on your person. Like if you're leave the course, or you're down and you're at the buffet in the hotel, you have to have your mini on you, or I'm not sure what the repercussions were, but I was never caught without my mini. But it's they hold that mini title in high regard.
So I wanted to ask you about that because last year I played in the Battle 6 tournament in Wetaskiwin. They had a raffle prize there. I won a practice bag, but I also won this disc, which I thought was a mini disc, but I don't know if this is what's called a macro disc. But when you won the mini world championship, is that actually playing with like a mini marker that you would mark your disc with? Like, or would you playing with like a putter, mid-range, and driver, but just in small format?
No, just the I was using two minis. There's different grades of minis, obviously the ones that you're just marking your disc with, but the everyone is using the Innova mini driver.
Oh, okay.
So
right,
it's actually has a bit of weight around the edge, but the same size as a mini, not the like a junior disc like you were holding there, it's not able to use those.
Right.
But yeah, the actual mini, it's got some weight on the edge, and well, you see some of the pros doing it on their videos, but I can still get 250 feet out of one of those minis.
That's
Wow.
impressive. I have trouble getting 250 feet with one of my regular discs, Daryl,
Exactly.
let alone with a mini.
Yeah, that course too, it was 18 holes set up just like a normal course would be. You got tunnels, trees, lots of trouble. So it was those were some fun rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the basket is also shrunk down as well.
Well, they don't actually shrink a basket. They have I'm not sure of that technology, but they have
No.
smaller baskets.
Daryl, he's got your sense of humor, doesn't he? I love it.
Just a clarification.
Yeah, I'm not sure if if they have regulation size for the mini baskets, but there might be one up there.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay,
see that
yeah.
see that guy there.
Gotcha.
Great.
But basically, 18 of those guys set up, and the same rules as you'd have for normal play you'd have for this.
Nice.
Wow.
Marking your mini with a mini.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So one question that's kind of come up in the chat from one of our from Brendan McKinstry from BR Disc Golf there, he was asking, what is your favorite course in Alberta at this point in time? Or maybe to add to that, if there's a course that's no longer around, you could include that as well.
There's some fun ones. I enjoy the treed up tunnel shots. And having, danger on your shots. Like at Rundle, there's hole 16, hole 12, a little bit there, like a little bit of danger. But, at Rundle, you shank your drive, you still have a birdie chance, really. You shank it, you still, whatever, you got 150 feet left, you still got a chance, right?
Yeah.
So I prefer the courses that punish the trouble shots. Heading out to Rudy's has got to be, the most enjoyable to play. It's got, a bit of everything down there, but, every shot, at least on the, west at Rudy's, is if you're not in the fairway, you're bogeying.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of OB, but natural OB. So I like that. I like Canmore. Similar, a little more forgiving than Rudy's, but still the punishment for not being in the fairway.
Well, we're going to get a chance to witness that firsthand this year. And we've had that was even the advice I think Gabby had given us when we asked for advice going to Falcons Flight. What should we do? And she said, just keep it in the fairway. If you can do that, you'll be fine. If you don't, you're going to have a rough time.
Yeah, certainly on the west and the east, like all of the west, basically, and the front nine of the east, that's the case. Like the back nine on the east is, more open, a little bit rundle-ish, but you shank a drive there, you still have access to the basket.
Right.
Okay.
Most of the other holes, there's the shorter ones, they're all playing under par, but aside from the other holes, I don't know if many of them are averaging under par.
Yeah. It's not
So
the first time.
yeah. Sorry,
first time.
you got to pick your,
just gonna say it's not
spots.
Not the first time that Rudy's, Falcons Flight, Aspen Meadows. Was it Aspen Meadows? Is what the name of it is? Yeah, east and west.
Yeah.
That has been mentioned about being someone's favorite course.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're definitely excited to play it later on this year.
It's just like that tournament itself is the way all our tourneys were, early 2000s, like everyone would kind of, come out and camp, and it's kind of that
Yeah.
camaraderie between people, and the way these events have grown, that's kind of taken away from that. Everyone that shows up at shotgun start, everyone's starting and finishing at the same time. The way River City and all the bigger events are, one round a day, and you have tee times. So there's people that are coming in to play these tournaments, and you wouldn't even see them, right? They're
Right.
at the other course, and they have tee time starting when yours is ending. But as far as Rudy's and Lost Egg are kind of the final couple that you got everyone camping in the same spot relatively, or hanging out that night. So and the way Rudy's has grown now, it's just insane. You got, I'm not sure, like with disc golfers and their whoever they're bringing up, it's got to be close to 300 people that are on that course during that day.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. And we've heard just too, the memory of Rudy is there, and it just feels like an event where disc golfers kind of come together to congregate, right? Like that's the event. If you're a disc golfer, that's where you want to be. And we even saw that in the fact that when we went to register, I'm telling you, Chad, I don't think it took me 60 seconds to register, and I was one of the last ones in my division before it filled up.
Yeah, that's another thing that is changed for sure. They're trying to sign up for those events, and Rudy's, it's you have comparing to River City kind of thing, where you're having, we don't have the BC, Saskatchewan, or kind of the Manitoba ones just coming to congregate. So there you're having twice the amount of people trying to get into this event or more.
Yeah.
And that's what helped with Rudy's too, is switching it to 1 round a day, 3 days, because you couldn't accommodate that many people. Playing the 2 rounds a day previous is just too much.
Right.
There you go. Well, we're going to change it a little bit here with you, Chad. One of the things was, as you mentioned it earlier in the podcast here, that you had done that 1 disc round with Matt. And during that round, you talked about the Game Changer Disc Golf Foundation. We're just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that. Is that still happening? And yeah, just wanted to ask you about that.
Still happening, and just the way I've run myself and all that, I like to, not putting myself out there, but just keeping kind of things small. I don't like to ask people for things too much, that kind of thing. So when that initially started is when my youngest boy Riker was wanting to do tournaments and that kind of stuff. So brought him out to his first tournament, and see the kids there, and dad's got kind of the Safeway bag and kind of helping the kids. And I'm like, well, I've been over the last 20 some years, just winning shit through the raffles and just discs and bags and kind of baskets and that. Like, I had just so much stuff, so I just kind of started making bags up and giving it to these kids and that kind of stuff, and it kind of enveloped a bit. I kind of put the word out with our club, if anyone's got kind of extra plastic or bags, and then just, I don't even want to start naming names about who helped me out with that, because there's just too many. Right. But had so many guys bringing me their stuff to kind of hand out, and it was like basically through juniors and through kind of that training league, and just in league in general, seeing people out on the course, just kind of maybe luck of the draw. I don't know if it's the right word, but you just see someone out there you've seen a few times, and looks like they need an upgrade kind of thing, right? So bring my bag out and see them, and I'm like, oh, you want to switch bags? So like, oh yeah, sure. So if it was a disc bag they'd have, I'd trade them out or let them give it to one of their buddies or something. But sort of trading down and trading up, and yeah. So in the last 2 years, it's really 15 bags and at least 200 discs, kind of just
Wow.
spread out there. I'm getting a little thin right now. Getting into, don't want to give away my collector stuff, but there's stuff that I've gone through that I still got a couple bags and 100 discs or so. But
Well,
it's
it's kind
kind
of
of
a good.
not that it's stalled, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good segue. That, like you said, you don't like to shout these things out, but we're a podcast, and that's one of the things that hopefully we can try and help you with. If somebody has extra plastic or an extra bag laying around, is that something that they can still get to you, or how would they go about that?
yeah, well, not even necessarily giving it to me, but maybe
For
having
sure.
it on hand in your vehicle, right? You have
Hmm.
throw that thing in your trunk with those discs, so whatever you're
Yeah.
going to transfer to EDGA or whatever, just keep it, and you see someone that looks like they could use it, and a bit of advice, yeah, just
Yeah.
do that, because it's hard to reach out, because my bubble's pretty small with the juniors, and I just people I see around Rundle, right? It's
Yeah.
I've gone, it's pretty much Alberta is kind of spread out through there, but there's clubs everywhere that can I'm sure are
Yeah.
seeing the same things that I am, that and it feels good to kind of help someone out too, and you see the next year they're throwing discs further than you, and you wish you wouldn't have given that destroyer away, try and trade it
Yeah.
back. But
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. A lot of, like you said there, we kind of trade up and we get more bigger bags and carts and things like that. A lot of these bigger bags have so many extra pouches and pockets on them that it's not a hardship to throw a couple extra discs that you're not going to use into your bag so that you have them with you out on the course. And then when Jeremy stumbles across those people asking for directions and you see they've got that Safeway bag in their hand, it's no hardship just to take an extra disc out and offer that disc to them.
yeah, definitely. Like no, like a lot of people getting into it, it can be quite a cost. Like you say it's free, you only need 1 or 2 discs, but it's to get a decent golf bag, you're spending over $100. You're spending the following year $200 for a bag. Then the following year you're spending $500 on a Zuka cart and all that.
Yeah.
And but it's not everyone's in that position to to keep everything, for sure. Like you spent $200 on this bag last year and you want to get a Zuka cart, so I understand that you're not just going to give that bag away. There's value in there to put towards your cart,
Right.
but I'm sure we all got some stuff that we can pass along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. So it's good advice there. And as we accumulate these discs as AMs, when we get into tournaments and you get handed out ones and it's not something you're going to throw, that's maybe a perfect disc that somebody else can learn how to throw and start out with as well. So good tips for that, for sure. And speaking of tips, Daryl, we got a pro on the podcast.
We do.
And you know what we like to do when we have a pro on the podcast? We want to tap into that professional mindset that you've got, Chad. And what we wanted to do is, as AMs, we can grow from advice from a player such as yourself. And one of the things that I kind of struggle with at times is I struggle a bit with my putting. And from what I understand, you're a bit of a good putter. So is there anything, maybe to start us out over the podcast that you could do to give us some tips on putting?
Just having a look at your noodle arm there. Well, confidence is a big thing. Like I use a lot of analogies to try and to get into someone's head, like what they've done over their kind of life to compare to sort of the mindset for putting. Inside the circle putting, if you're let's say throwing darts, you're aiming at the bullseye, like the last thing in your mind is missing the dartboard. Like
Right.
it's not even a concept.
Right.
But if you were to pull the wall away and just have the dartboard stranded, so now it's
Right.
nothing has changed about what you're aiming at. Like you'd never be hitting that wall regardless, but since the wall is gone,
Yeah.
now you could become a little bit tentative. So just getting hard to explain if I'm not standing with you guys, kind of showing something, but for sure that getting to a point, a repetitive shot that you're as confident from 25 feet that you're going to be hitting metal, and making a deliberate shot, not kind of trying to drop it in as if it was going into a garbage can, because you're kind of scared of where it may end up. Just being confident that you're going to be hitting that zone, and being deliberate with your putt, and just the mechanics too. Just let's say you're a hyzer putter, but that's going to change whether that wind is coming from the right hand side of you or the left hand side of you. Obviously, if you're a hyzer putter and it's coming from the right, it's shooting it over. If the wind's coming from the left and you're a hyzer putter, it's going to be pushing it down. Same with a tailwind. A lot of people's say, well, I got a tailwind, the putt just drops, just sinks out of the sky, right? Well, it's if you're putting with a little bit of nose up and that wind seeing the top of the disc is shutting it down, but just giving it that tilt, now the wind is seeing the bottom of the disc and carrying it to the basket.
Right.
It's not sinking it, it's carrying it. So just so many nuances.
Yeah.
It's the same as ball golf, right? Like it takes sort of years to kind of get your routine, just kind of getting all the little things down.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense when you say it, that when you say it, you realize, oh, why didn't I know that before? Like your dartboard analogy of the basket makes me think, like I've heard before, about if you were to tell somebody throw a 200-foot shot in the fairway, nobody worries about it. But you put 200 foot of lake and now tell someone to make that shot, suddenly they get scared because they think they have to throw over the shot hasn't changed, but just introducing the water makes it a harder shot. So your analogy of using the dartboard, imagining there's a wall behind the basket, you're not scared of missing the basket because you're going to hit the wall. You're not thinking about the wall, you're going to get it in the basket. But take everything away and just have a solo basket standing there in the field, suddenly it shouldn't be any different. It should still best be a straight putt into the basket, right? Like you said, you should be hitting metal.
Yeah, it takes it takes some confidence too. When same thing with the wall analogy in your basket. If the basket is 10 feet from a lake and you're 30 feet out, how often are you running that the same way you would if there was just being a full circle behind it, right?
Right.
It's tough to make that transition from kind of being a little bit tentative and throwing a different putt than what would be your most accurate putt. You're throwing a different putt, because you don't want to go into the water, like being a little scared.
Yeah.
But
and then that tentative,
the same off the tee.
Yeah, I say, and then when you do that tentative putt, you're not giving it your all, so that if it goes in, it's probably more a matter of luck at that point, because you've changed your whole approach to it because you didn't run it the way you should be running it and with that confidence.
Right, like going back to the board mentality. If you're not throwing the same way you would with a wall there, let's say you're lobbing it a little bit more, like your misses are going to be further away from that bullseye than they normally would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might even be lucky that the dart sticks into the board at that point.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You kind of mentioned it there. Well, maybe Daryl, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't mind taking Chad up on it sometime there and seeing some of this stuff in person. So maybe we can make that happen down the road.
Yeah.
Sure, I'd love to have a little collaboration, and I kind of got it's a bit of a there's been a work in progress on how to kind of explain how my putt got to this point, but most people are from that background. They're putting. I kind of have a spush putt for like it's kind of a combo of a push and a spin. But if I'm inside 20 feet, it's 100% a push putt. So getting someone to transfer from like a spin putt is almost like from the lead finger, like you're pulling the disc, right?
Mhm.
So like your power comes kind of like from your whip at the end from a spin putt, but a push putt, your power is coming from your back fingers.
Hmm.
So I kind of use if you're like going back to darts or pool or tossing a beanbag, like darts, your hand never leaves that line of sight. Pool, you're
Right.
shooting, your hand is never going off to the side.
Mhm.
So if you're throwing from the hip, like, or the disc already starting not in line with your hand and then kind of throwing, and then your hand finishes off to the side, it's going to be a lot more hard to be consistent with that. It's kind of like throwing a dart from beside your head, right? It's not kind of what you're staring at. So I kind of whittled it down to a beanbag shot. So it's sort of what some people have problems transitioning to a straddle putt from whichever kind of putt they're doing. So if you got your staggered, you're normally putting, and now they go to a straddle putt, and it's almost looks like Matty O, who's kind of the extreme elbow out push. Like no one really putts like that, but Matty O. Mine is more like a Ricky, where my elbow is not involved. My elbow is not involved at all in the propulsion of the disc, like to get the force, like without using your elbow, you fire a beanbag fast, right? If you're straddling and you'd fire the beanbag fast, so the only thing the wrist is doing is just adding a touch of spin. So the hand, if you're throwing a beanbag, your hand will never leave that line of sight, right?
Yeah.
But when someone gets a disc in their hand, like if you're throwing a beanbag flat, you're pitching it with your back fingers, right? You're not throwing it like that. You're supporting the disc with your back fingers and pitching the back of it up, and it going like that. So none of that power is coming from that. So getting someone to transfer kind of their thoughts on how to get the disc going to still go fast without using their elbow, kind of a throw. It's a bit of a transition, but it's like for getting the disc flat and a more repetitive putt, or just even adding to what you do. Because I kind of do a little bit with my elbow on circles edge putts. It's not much elbow involved, but there's a little bit involved.
Well, Chad, everybody's loving your comments and your advice, so thanks for sharing that. And you know what, Daryl, I would think that with tips like this, you could take that basket and put it on an island in the middle of nowhere with water surrounding it, and I'd be able to hit it. So
I bet you could,
with some practice. But that kind of leads us into maybe the next thing, I would think.
You think? Yeah, kind of sounds a little bit like this.
Now it's time for desert island discs. Picture this. You've taken a relaxing cruise, however the ship goes down. You manage to swim to an island, and fortunately for you, there's an 18-hole disc golf course. Which 3 discs are you taking with you on the island?
So it's kind of evolved over the episodes, Chad. But basically, like it says there, if you had to only play around with 3 discs that you had with you, which 3 discs are you taking with you?
And this is an island?
Don't think too much about the island.
Like
Yeah, this is
Everybody
only
kind
one
of
there?
fixates on the island. Is it windy? Is it humid? Is there water? Is there a lot of trees?
Call it
It can
the
be
island
whatever
of your
island-
dreams with the
Yeah,
disc golf
exactly.
course
It
on
can
it,
be-
but you're stuck on it and you've only got 3 discs with you.
What kind of baskets?
Your favorite.
My favorite.
Yeah.
Uh,
Shrunk down ones, like with new technology.
yeah.
It used to be a putter, a mid-range, and a driver, but Tim Plamondon kind of blew that out of the water when he took Firebird, Firefly, and we've had people try and squeeze a 4th disc in there. So
Yeah. We've
whichever-
had people take them
whatever-
for utility reasons, like taking a machete disc so that they can
Chop
make sure
up.
they can get some food or open a coconut.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'm picturing this course being kind of like that Samoa swine type course.
Okay.
I like that already.
I think I would need my JK AVR, soft AVR for the shorter nose up touchy holes.
Right.
I got. I probably have I'm sure I have the largest Cobra collection in Canada, but it would definitely need a Pro Line Cobra.
Sweet.
And probably not many rollers out there. I'll probably go with T-Bird, I think.
Yeah.
Hey.
There you
I
go.
don't have especially the last few years with my elbow, I don't have the Star Destroyers have basically almost become my utility discs at that point, because I just I can't get the speed on them at the moment.
Right.
So the T-Birds have kind of become in the same flight as the Destroyer used to be, a little bit slower disc.
Right. So KC Soft AVR?
JK
JK, sorry.
410.
JK Soft AVR. The Cobra.
Pro Line Cobra. There's got to be specific there.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Not just any Cobra.
Not just any Cobra, for sure. They're just as any disc is different with the plastic. They're pretty different.
And the T-Bird.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Chad,
Yeah, Old Faithful.
we love having you on the show, and it's been great to get to know you here. Before we get ready to let you go, is there anything you'd want to shout out? We don't know. We know you've had some sponsors in the past. We don't know if you're sponsored at the moment or anything else you want to say.
Sponsors, no. It's a different kind of thing to have a sponsor, and I tend, things come out of my mouth here and there, and having representing somebody. It was kind of similar with EDGA Council over the COVID, and being on the board and going down there and playing when maybe you weren't supposed to. It's a different thing, but with having someone's kind of name that you're representing and organizing, I just decided to cancel myself before anything kind of got going on. Like Mark Dakov was the RPM guy in town with because he lived in New Zealand and Simon Freese, and Simon Freese came up here and stayed at my place for River City, and he was on the New Zealand team for the WFDF stuff too. So when Mark left, I thought I would keep up the RPM kind of logo floating around Alberta still. But it was just kind of different having that RPM. Like I love RPM. Like get yourself a Piwaka Waka. You will you will not regret it. It's just such a kind of a unique disc. That'll be my shout out for RPM. Like they have some unique plastic and just have flights that, you know, I've thrown everything, but just some of their discs are just different. If you don't like it, at least it'll be a utility disc. Like if you don't like a disc, it's probably doing something the rest of your discs aren't.
Yeah.
So just having that, you know, that's why we all carry 40 discs through a round, right? Just running into that one spot where you can just dust off that disc that hasn't seen the light in 3 years. And like, oh, this is your time, buddy.
Yeah.
Your time to shine.
Yeah.
I actually
no
did
doubt.
a RPM 3-disc challenge down at Sylvan Lake, and I had a Piwaka Waka. Yeah, I think I've given it to Sonia in the chat here for that's kind of a good disc for her. I got a Tara ET, the Piwaka Waka, and the Takapoo.
Oh, it's the new putter. Yeah, all great stuffs, and they just the sort of the speed that they've, because they're somewhat new as of years ago. So you're getting into retooling and new plastics that turns it into a new disc really.
Yeah,
but you just unique stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, definitely. I never did get a chance to try those discs you had there, Daryl. So if you're hanging on to any of them, I wouldn't mind putting one in the hand. When you have someone like Chad say to try out a disc, I'd like to try it out. So maybe Sonia and I can get together and try that Piwaka Waka.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, when we get out putting, I got lots of RPM stuff. I got lots of everything, but I got lots of RPM stuff, and we'll see if it suits either. Yeah.
Nice.
Sounds good.
Well, Chad, it's been fantastic having you on the show. We'll be at Rundle tomorrow. I know if you're out there, maybe we'll see. If not, we'll catch up with you as soon as we can.
Oh, you're just rubbing it in.
Oh, well, when we get to the heat, the heat dome that's going to be happening tomorrow, maybe you won't be feeling so bad.
Yeah, it's the heat. Yeah. Well, I might. I'm still able to. Because I don't use my elbow much for putting. I might use this time to kind of just sit down there, and anyone willing to kind of come over and go through some putting, kind of maybe not before they're around, but maybe after they're around. I might just come down and hang out and visit. It's been a few weeks since I've been able to play, so go and meet everyone again. I'm getting lonely.
Oh, that's a great plan. A great plan.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chad. We will catch up with you, and we're definitely going to put that out there. Everybody who's listening, you want to get some putting tips, show up at Rundle here, and Chad might be there to show you how to do it.
And I appreciate you guys and what you're doing for the tour. It's not just the tour, but just getting this kind of content out there, which we haven't. Like you were saying back in the day, how did we even know there was a tournament going on, right? And I appreciate you guys and your your passion for the game. I can feel that through the screen, and awesome. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thanks for joining, Chad.
Okay, cheers, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Catch you later.
Okay, there should be a little red button there. You can just tap on the screen.
I will not do that.
He's gonna hang out. He wants to hear what else we have to say.
I can bring you backstage.
Yeah.
Let's see. You sure there's a red button here?
One that says leave looks like a little phone.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Okay,
cheers.
See you, Chad.
Bye.
Daryl, man, we've been wanting to have Chad on for a while, and he didn't disappoint. Like the amount of knowledge, the history of the game, the fact that he's like just that last part there, that he's going to go down to Rundle and he's going to be available for people to learn how to putt. Maybe
let's not commit him to anything. Yeah, maybe,
Okay.
but yeah, if he's able and willing, then yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So excited to have him on.
You know, we've spoken to Tim, you know, about getting into the EDGA board and stuff like that. We spoke to Brock, and we've seen, we've been on the board. What do we call them? The annual AGMs.
Yes.
But
the AGM
actually,
meetings.
getting to know someone or getting to hear the history of how disc golf started in Edmonton, you know, playing. I didn't even think I never knew that there was a makeshift course down in Horlack.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you think about Edmonton Disc Golf, you always think of Hermitage and Rundle and how Wally was trying so hard to get Hermitage in the ground, and you know, Rundle was the oldest course in Edmonton, but no one has ever mentioned anything about Horlack.
No, not at all. So much to learn. So I really hope that you and I can also find some time to get together with him and really tap into that knowledge that he's willing to share, because just like I'm taking that lesson with Gabe, the only way you're going to get better, like, you know, you can try and teach yourself, but why not take somebody with 25 years experience and he's offering to give us advice? Sign me up.
And like I've said to you before, like, you can watch YouTube videos, but watching them and then trying to emulate what they do or say may not fit your game, right? Having somebody there watching how you putt and saying, okay, this isn't working, try this, try that, like actually getting the feedback right there and then is immeasurable.
100, definitely. I agree with you on that.
And then just the way that he explained it, I know Dylan mentioned it in the chat as well, and in chat as well, but that analogy, and that's what it takes sometimes, is just for someone to picture that analogy of throwing the dart into the dartboard. Now take away the wall, suddenly it makes it a bit scarier, but it shouldn't, because you're still throwing the dart into the dartboard. So the disc in the basket, putt with confidence, don't even think that you're going to miss. Yeah.
We're going to be lethal.
You're in trouble
tomorrow
night, Jeremy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. So as we always tell people at this time, if you like these guests and you like what we're putting out there, get over to YouTube, subscribe, like, follow, comment, head to Instagram, Facebook, you name it. We're everywhere.
Well, a couple of things I would say. If you give me a second. Oops.
I can give you a second. I can give you a 3, 4.
If you head over to Instagram at @chainout_podcast, give us a follow over there. And then why is it not coming up?
Wow.
Do you see it?
No, I don't see it, but there you
it
go.
Is. All other social media, Chain Out Podcast. Speaking of subscribing, subscribe on YouTube, because as of right now, we had 210 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
We teased it a while ago. We've got all the gifts that we're getting ready for the giveaway.
Yes.
We're now on the push. This is kind of our final stretch. We're at 210 subscribers. At 250, we'll be doing another giveaway, just like we did for our 100 subscribers. Only this one's going to be bigger and better.
Yes. And we could go over all those prizes again, but I would say very, very shortly,
stay tuned.
We're going to have a post. So check that out. And speaking of giving away things, we gave away the Discape Pioneer set just recently here. And we're going to be giving away that mini that we mentioned last week. We've got, seems like it's hard just to stay on top of all the giveaways that we're doing, Daryl.
It does, doesn't it, Jeremy? Yeah. So far, all the fantasy episodes, everybody who has won a gift card from BR Disc Golf, they've all received their disc golf, their gift cards. Just as a reminder, if you watch the fantasy episode, you got to vote on the team to be eligible to win.
Yes. And you can vote by voting with the vote button, putting a comment. Just make sure your voice is heard on those posts or those videos, and we'll make sure you're in for that gift card draw.
There you go.
Now, at this point here, we're going to move into the rest of the show, the back half of it. But start thinking of a secret word. If you've got one, throw it in there. And Daryl, Edmonton Open took place over the weekend. I didn't get to participate. You were there. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. Anybody that knows Bailey's Sea Change Disc Golf Park course, it's a challenging course. It's nothing quite like, maybe Wildman in the north is comparable,
Mhm.
but it's nothing like Hermitage or Rundle or Niska or Langholm or any of the other courses. It's challenging. It was a little bit different layout for the tournament, as most of these courses kind of change it up a little bit for the tournaments. A couple of the holes were changed for the AMs, so a par 3 became a par 4 for some of the AMs. Introduced some new tee pads for the pros, so it made the holes a lot harder for them. I was in the MA3 division because I couldn't get into the MA40 division. It was full, and rather than go on a wait list and try and squeeze my way in, MA3 had some spots, so I signed up for MA3. So I was playing from the short tee pad. 3 rounds, like we were saying before, 2 rounds on the Saturday, 1 round on the Sunday. Yeah, for me, the rounds got better. The event got better through as I went through.
Right.
You told me, and I was also told by Sonia, that I was in 3rd in my division at one point. But let me know in the chat if you're in a tournament. Are you a scorecard checker? Are you looking to see where you are in the tournament, or are you just playing your best game and you're not really focusing on outside involvements? Because I'm not. I wasn't looking at the scorecard. I was just playing my game to the best of my ability in that moment.
Yes.
And ended up in 5th. So maybe if I did check, maybe I would have tried a little bit harder.
Well, it was funny because I was hoping, I had mentioned before on the podcast, that I could get out to the final day to maybe caddy for you, but I had other events going on. So instead, what I was doing was you didn't want me to. I was watching it on PDGA live, and when you see the DGPT events covered on the Disc Golf Network, or they used to have UDisc Live where it would say where shots were, all I could see is your score on each hole. Right. But I had my son involved, and the two of us were watching, and I'm like, this is a hole where if Daryl gets a par, he's going to do good, because we could see the other players and we could see what they did and what hard holes or easy holes they had coming up. And then I'm like, Daryl's in third. All he has to do is par out and he should have this. And so for us, it was quite exciting watching it. And I know you didn't get that, but maybe this weekend when I'm in my tournament, you'll get the same kind of feeling I had, although it might be, oh, look, he's dropping even further.
Exactly. A couple of people in the chat, Brock and Kristen, are both scorecard checkers.
Oh,
but I don't check score. I don't even like to know when we play Rundle League. I mean, not even in a tournament. I don't even like to know the score at the halfway mark. Like, obviously when you're on UDisc, you get the review after 9 holes.
Yes.
Like, that's partly one reason why I don't like keeping score. Not from the fact that I don't like to do my share. I don't mind keeping score. It's just the fact that when I get to the review part, I don't want anyone to tell me, oh, can you tell me my score? Because then that means I have to look at my score.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, I think I've been okay. I'll use my little birdie beads there to keep track of my personal score.
Yeah.
And then that's it. I don't need to, yes, thanks for that.
If you want
Mike.
your own set of birdie beads, he's got them for sale.
Yeah, definitely. But let's finish up with Edmonton Open there. They did have that birdie or die event. You said you weren't able to participate in it, but I'm assuming it went well. It sounded like it was going to be good. I did see some Instagram clips in that of the birdie bash. So there were some, it looked like they were hitting the cutout geese a little better this year than maybe they were last year, because I saw a lot of videos of the geese getting hit. So that was good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, weather on day 1 was quite hot. Day 2 started off. We had a lot of rain for the AMs in the morning. I think it cleared up a lot for the pros in the afternoon.
Right.
Speaking of pros, we had in the MPO division, we had Casey Hannemeyer, Noah Higgins was there as well. Obviously, a lot of Edmonton local MPOs was there.
Like even people in the chat here, right? Like Dylan Froelich was there. And
Dylan was there. In the FPO division, again, a lot of people in the chat. Kristen Swirls was there. Guests of the show even. We had Zoe Lorenz-Bozer. We had Terry Hong there. Kristen's obviously been on the show as well.
Yeah, it was awesome that way to see that many. And I guess a local tournament, we're going to have that. You're going to have so many big names there. And even seeing Terry Hong and Zoe Lorenz-Bozer tying for second and having both probably some of their best tournaments of the year so far. So that was
Yeah.
fantastic to see.
Yeah.
And with that,
Well,
Daryl,
let's
go
give a
ahead.
quick rundown. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's do it back and forth. Okay. We're going to run down all of the winners and all of the divisions just so everybody out there knows
Gets
how
a
it
shout
went.
out. Yeah.
MPO, friend of the show, Casey Hannemeyer.
FPO, Amber Chason.
MP40, the one and only Uncle Steve Newman.
MP50, Howie Meeker.
MA1, another friend of the show, Gavin Beamish, takes it
Getting all the
down.
friends. FA1, Amy Jansen.
Yeah. MA40, a buddy of ours that we've played with in our division a number of times, Duncan Holness.
Yeah. FA40, a name that you might recognize if you've seen out at She's Up First, Tracy St. John.
Yeah. Also the playoff that we covered at River City Cup. She was part of that for
Yeah,
FA40.
absolutely, yeah.
MA50, Robin Lambert from the Central Alberta area.
MA2, Matt Friesen.
MA3 in your division was Trevor Parks.
You have to bring it up. And then in FA3, Sam Western, Sam Squared. You might have seen them before. Samantha Chilton taking down the win in FA3.
Yeah, good job. Congratulations to all the winners there. Okay, now I've written it here, Daryl. We're going to get into the review of this course. We might as well review it. We're talking about the course that this Edmonton Open was played at. So
by popular demand, we're bringing back the course reviews.
That's right, we are. So the Sea Change Brewing Disc Park at Bailey's Crossing course review. Holy crow. That's what we're doing. Yeah. But you know what? Anybody who hasn't joined us, they need to go back as far back to Kristen Swirl's episode, which was episode 7.
Yeah.
That was the last time. Yeah. Last time we reviewed a course was episode 7. And do you know when that was?
Oh, we just interviewed Kristen Swirls like yesterday. So it must have been like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
How about you try January 3rd, 2024, it was released, which was 7.5 months ago.
7.5 months we've been doing this. Longer than 7.5 months. That was episode 7.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's
Only
amazing.
seems like yesterday.
So to give you guys an idea of what a course review looks like from a chain out style is we're not going to take you through hole by hole by hole. That's we could maybe do that in a video or something like that. But when we do it in an episode, we're really trying to take a look at the course, giving you an idea of how we feel about it. Maybe some of the highlight holes or some lines that maybe we've seen or tried ourselves that maybe you could try on the course. So that's what we're going to give you. Let's talk about it. Where's the course located, Daryl?
It's located in the southwest of, just southwest of Edmonton, just outside or just in a little bit of town called Devon.
Yeah, just north of the Fort Saskatchewan River there, if you know where that big bridge, that big dip in the bridge is over there.
Yeah.
So private course, 18 holes,
Yep.
Multiple tee pads, sometimes shared tee pads.
Right.
And usually just one basket location, right? Like a permanent basket.
Yeah, some holes have moved, but I don't think there's any plan. I think there's plans to have multiple locations, but not necessarily back and forth. It's not going to be a switch up at the moment.
Right.
They've extended some holes. They've moved baskets around, but it's not. It's not like if you're used to playing at Rundle or Hermitage where baskets can move positions.
It's not the same way. And speaking of Rundle, Hermitage, if you've played those courses, they're kind of wide open park style courses, I think you'd call them, anytime it's in a city owned space. This is not a wide open park style course.
Yeah, no, I would say this is probably 90, maybe 80% wooded. There's a few open holes, but when we call them open, they're not really necessarily open like a park style course. The fairways kind of move out, widen out a bit, but you're still dealing with trees off the tee pad.
Yeah, and if trees weren't enough for you at this course, you're also going to get to deal with elevation as well.
Yeah, at least one thing, there's no water.
No, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. There is no water on the course.
But that doesn't mean that you're not going to lose a disc.
No.
If you hit some of these trees, you can be kicking off left and right. You can be going down, like you said, the elevation. A lot of sometimes on the side of the fairways, there's a big drop off, and when you're trying to go down there, in between the trees, in through the underbrush, the fallen logs, the leaves in the fall and the springtime, it's definitely a challenging course. You're not necessarily the same, but take the same approaches of Aspen Meadows, keep it in the fairway, you'll be doing pretty good.
Yeah. And being a private course, there is a fee to it. I think right now, is it $10 a day? Is that what
$10
the
a day,
charge
yeah.
is? So when you get there, when you get to hole one, there's
Yeah.
a barcode on the bench that's at hole one.
Yeah, and you can do an e-transfer of the money as well. All the information's right there on the sign screwed into the bench.
Yeah. And that's it. There are some benches around there. Those tee pads that they have a turf tee pad, which is probably one of the few. Can you think of another place in Edmonton that has turf tee pads? Maybe Kingswood is the only other place I can think of.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a neat way to do it. And sometimes they're built out of wood, so it's a bit of a raised, covered in turf. And
probably one of the things that we should mention, kind of the local pro tips. So if you do pull up to the course, don't drive into the course to park.
No.
You're parking on the outside, kind of angled parking just outside the fence line. And then as you go in, you're greeted with a practice basket, some picnic tables. Look for your disc if you've lost a disc. Normally, people will find the disc and leave it on the table. They did have a lost and found box labeled at the event, but whether that's going to stay or that was just for advertising for the tournament. But that's normally where you'll find your lost and found discs if you're looking for one of those.
And I thought when you said you were going to be greeted when you got there, I thought you were going to talk about something else.
Well, that's the best. I think, I'm sure Kristen's going to agree in the chat there. One of the best things about, venturing around Bailey's course, whether it be on hole one or, maybe you'll get surprised on a random hole, but
you think there's a bear coming out of the woods or something, right?
Exactly. Keep an eye out for Cody is his name. Cody's the course dog. If it's the summertime, make sure you turn a putter upside down, pour some water in it, give him a little bit of a drink because I'm sure he might be thirsty.
Yeah. And the one thing that I'll tell you, if you don't see Cody around the course, just open up some food. Whether it's the sound or the smell, Cody will be right by your side checking to see if you've got something for Cody as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the course. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, getting into the courses there, some of the other things that we like to talk about is what do we think that our ace holes look like on the course? Not necessarily holes that everyone's going to ace, but for us amateurs, what holes are we looking to think that we've got an ace run in us to try and go for it?
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing we want to give you guys an idea is any hole can be an ace attempt if you're depending on what your skill level is.
Yeah.
But for amateur guys like us, what we find is that if you hit up hole number 3 from the short position, that's a pretty much straightforward with a little bit of woods behind it. You can you got a little bit of OB and long grass on the right, but it's definitely a reachable hole for us. And then hole 4 right after that, same kind of thing.
Kristen's mentioning in the chat that hole 4 had a tournament ace.
Oh, there you go. I was
not aware of that, but yeah, hole 4, we were going to mention that's definitely, it's gettable.
Yeah. And it's one of those ones where we always say that you're never trying for an ace in a tournament or that type of thing. But with the way the basket's set up on hole 4, there's a bit of it's kind of like an island, because if you don't get past an area of wood, you're in a hazard area. So you almost have to run it in order to make sure you're within the safe zone.
Yeah. So hole 3, hole 4, hole 12 possibly could be considered an ace run hole as well.
Yeah.
For me and you, I know we like to go the flex forehand, throw something super overstable, throw it downhill, because this is one of those elevation change holes.
Well, and that's probably the steepest one. I guess the tip we could do, because we like to give tips as well, is when you're done hole 11, you've got to climb up a hill that is so steep that it has a rope along the side of it for you to hold on to get up there. So my first tip to you is make sure when you get to the top of that hill, you have a couple drinks of water, take a few breaths, catch your breath before you make that throw, because there's been a few times where we've rushed our shots and then your shot's not going to go well because your heart is just beating from climbing the hill still.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things on UDisc, when you look at the course, it does say that it's not cart friendly. And I think that's pretty much just because of hole 12.
Right.
I know Matt Dwyer came out. I played with Matt for a practice round, and he brought his cart. And I was waiting to see him get to hole 12 and see how he managed, but he had to take off after hole 11. So I didn't actually get to see him struggle up with the cart on his own. But Shout out to Zach Mitchell, who getting the ace on hole 4, Kristen says. Going back to hole 12, before we mention what else that she said in the chat. Yeah, take your time. You know, you've just used a lot of energy climbing up. Take your time, get the water, catch your breath back. And then you're faced with a huge elevation drop.
Yes.
Down to the basket. Which we think is possibly eagleable.
Yeah,
aceable, sorry.
And our tip for that one, which we've learned, is take a really overstable mid or approach disc, throw it on a hard ante, like a 45 degree, and trust that disc to fade back because it's got enough drop that it's got the time to do it. And I think you've been parking that one lately as a result of that type of throw, right?
Only because I've seen you throw it once and it worked out for you. But yeah, speaking of other notable aces, well, Kristen reckons hole 6 is aceable. Are you talking in the old position?
That's a blind ace if you did that in the old position.
It's not in the old position. It's a blind ace.
Yeah.
In the new position, I think that's probably like 250 downhill, straight tunnel shot with a low ceiling.
Yeah, not for us.
I mean, like we say, any hole is aceable if you get lucky.
Yeah. Well, so that gives you a little bit of an idea there.
For us.
But we should also talk about some other holes maybe people want to know about or kind of are interesting ones to keep in mind that are unique about the course. And I'm thinking hole 10 is definitely one because that's probably the longest par 5 that we normally see in the Edmonton area and one of the few par 5s we run into.
Yeah, and luckily it's not a wooded hole. No. It is a long open par 5. There is OB all along the right hand side. There part of on the property is the section that's fenced off because of
the oil wells,
the oil derricks.
Yeah,
that's the oil wells. So yeah, you're faced with you're faced with OB all down the right hand side, and pretty dense woods on the left hand side. So keeping your disc in bounds. Basically 3 straight shots.
Yep.
And then the basket is kind of tucked around the corner. If you can hyzer something around, and a birdie is gettable on that hole, but also an 8 or a 9 is as well.
Well, that's it. It's like you have to make sure to not be greedy and to just throw 3 good shots. And if you can throw 3 good shots in a row, which is part of our challenge is consistency. But if you can throw 3 good shots in a row, you've got to look at a birdie likelies. But that's one of those interesting holes. And then 17 and 18, I would say. And 17, it's got a kind of a bit of artwork on that hole, hey?
Yeah, just off the tee pad. I know you mentioned it before. I hadn't played the course or wasn't aware of it, but there used to be a course in Alberta that was kind of named Middle Earth.
Yes.
And it's no longer available. I understand that it's closed down for various reasons. And part of the like you say, the artwork, it's made out of metal. It's all welded together in that kind of shape where that kind of artwork where you take an inner wheel of this thing and you take some metal from a tractor fender sort of thing and you kind of weld it all together to make a creation. And that greets you just on the tee pad of 17. And then the basket on 17, the green, it doesn't get any easier. It's an island hole. And it's not just a flat island hole. It's an island hole on a 45-degree slope where you got to make sure that you stick the landing zone. Because if you don't, it's very easy. If you catch an edge, then you're rolling OB and you're going to the drop zone. And it's not an easy drop zone. The drop zone is at the top of the green, and it's not far, but it's downhill. And again, if you miss your putt, you're chaining out. Or you miss your putt, you're you better hope it sticks. Otherwise, you're rolling OB again.
And if you go and sorry, clearing my throat. Look at me all deep throated. But if you watch on Instagram, Terry Hong had an attempt at that as well. So even the pros struggle from that drop zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And then 18, like you mentioned, another elevation change. You walk up to the tee, walk up to the green of 17, kind of do just a little jump across, and then you're on the tee pad of 18, throwing downhill. What makes this hole? I did, Kristen. Thank you. I think I made the island twice, and I think I did go OB once. Just a little jaunt across. You're on the tee of 18. What makes it interesting is the fact that there's no OB, but there is hazard left
Yes.
and right. And then the fairway, kind of like we said, there's a big elevation drop. It goes along. I don't know how far the hole is, but the basket's actually kind of tucked in on the right hand side, and almost like a little bit of a cul-de-sac.
Yes, kind of like that, where it kind of just turns there. And I know for me, I have a lot of time not going in the hazard. And it was kind of nice, I think, with the tournament is that hole is right back at the beginning, takes you right to the start.
Yeah.
And there's benches that line that hazard right by the hole.
Yeah.
So you can have people watching and cheering or jeering, depending on how your shot went. And I was pretty go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, if you want to see what that hole looks like, go back on Instagram and check out the reveal for episode 34, and you'll see me throwing the drive on 18, and you'll see where it lands, and then you'll see where the basket is.
Well, and I was telling you, I was watching your play, and you, of course, didn't start on hole 1. It was round robin, so you were kind of towards the back 9. But when I saw you get through 18, you birdied 18. I couldn't believe it. Like, that was amazing. I'm like, how did he possibly birdie that hole? So yeah, it's good.
It's one of those things that when we play tournaments, you always look back and you think, oh, if only I laid up that putt, I could have made a par, but I didn't. I ran it, it rolled away, and I took a bogey. I should have done this. I should have done that. It's okay trying to get those shots back, but what you got to do is you got to remember the bonus birdies that you got. And 18 was definitely a bonus birdie. I threw my Thrasher downhill. Thanks, Brendan. Threw my Thrasher downhill, had the nice S-flight, but unfortunately it didn't come back in time and went through the trees in the hazard.
Okay.
Went down on the right-hand side, went down to the fairway, walked through, was up near in the trees looking to see where my disc kind of ended up. Miraculously, it went through all the trees, and I was parked under the basket, 2 feet under the basket. So I ended up with the tap-in birdie. So that was definitely a bonus birdie. That could have easily been a 4 or 5.
Well, nice work on that one. Now, I know when we talked to Colleen McInnes and we talked to Gabby and some of them, they had said, don't put nemesis holes in your head, guys. It's just a hole that you're getting better at, or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
So if we're going to talk that way, there are a couple holes I want to mention that people should be aware of when they get there, because you can take a big number on. And one of the ones is 11. And that's because last year I went off that one. You were there with me. I took a 9 on that hole. And really what I can give you as advice is make it through the tree gap at the start, which isn't too scary. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to err to the right, because if you go to the right, you might be in long grass. But if you go to the left, you're going to be an OB, and then an OB, and then an OB. And then all of a sudden you're going to have a 9 on a hole like that. So that's one hole to watch out for. And I think you could tell us a little bit about the other hole, which you even spotted on. Yeah.
No, hole 16 for the pros is definitely a lot harder. It's a dog leg left. We're obviously describing what it's like for us as amateurs. So we're playing from the red tees. You start off with a tunnel gap, which there's OB left, and there's not hazard, but there's trees and underbrush and stuff like that if you go right. So you're faced with a tight tunnel shot off the tee pad, just to make it to the corner, and then you've got a 90-degree turn to your left. And then you've got another blind approach to the basket, because the basket kind of dips down. So you can see the top, but it's hard to judge that distance of how far to get it over the lip.
Yes.
But just as you go over the lip, there's a bush, which you can't see. I don't believe you can see from the fairway.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you avoid that. So you got to give it enough distance to crest the hill. But don't give it too much distance, because there's OB all around the backside of the basket there. So it definitely takes a good approach shot to be able to land the green. If you do hit the bush, that's kind of a good landing area, because it stops your disc, and it's definitely a makeable putt from the bush.
And the basket is cemented into a bucket, which a couple of them are. So slightly raised as well on a downhill slope. So there's a lot of things about that hole that if you can just play it with some nice, straight, flat shots and get yourself in putting position for a par, you'd be happy.
Well, on my final round, we got to that hole. Excuse me. I was paired up with somebody from Saskatoon, and the 2 people ahead of me, because I think I was third on the box at that time, Went for the hyzer flip, the straight tunnel shot to get through to the corner. But what I've done before, and what I think you've noticed, is that my line on that hole on 16 is to go, I throw my destroyer, which I've just started to throw, high up over the trees. Just send it straight. Just try and get the distance to clear the trees, because it's gonna fade back. And I had one of the best drives. I actually made it around the corner.
Oh,
Up,
wow.
Yeah, going up the fairway just by going over the trees. So if you've got the arm and you've got a very overstable disc, if you can get it over the trees, that's a kind of a locals line.
For sure. Well, hopefully that gives some people another look at what a chain out course review is like. And if you haven't been out there, get out and try the course.
One thing I just want to mention that's kind of good, and it's different to every other course that we can play in Edmonton, is if you do go out there and maybe you haven't got some time, so maybe you're thinking, I don't need to go out there and play that because I don't have time for a full 18. Right. Or if you've played your full 18, but you still want that extra little bit of disc golf, but you don't want to go back around for another full 18, the good thing about this course is that there's two alternate layouts called the dessert and snack layouts. I forget which order they are in. I think the snack layout involves...
The snack is 12.
Hole 1, hole 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, I believe. And then the dessert layout is 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. I'm not right.
You're just making them up now. Yeah, but either way, the point about them is one's a 6-hole layout, and one's a 12-hole layout. And if you go to a course, and especially a wooded one that you don't know too much, if you just played the first 6 holes and said, I'm going to stop now, then you're out in the middle of nowhere. But the way they've set this up is that you end up playing 6 holes in a loop that takes you right back to the parking lot. So you're going to have a quick little half an hour round instead of another 2-hour round. Just get that sampling and get back to the course.
1, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 6 holes.
There you go. You got it. So,
yeah.
Now, the one thing we also like to do, Daryl, and I don't know if you remember we used to do this, is we have a top 5 courses in the Edmonton and maybe in the Alberta area right now that we've reviewed.
Yeah.
And now we got to figure out where Bailey's goes
Let's give a quick rundown on where we're standing at right now.
All right. You currently have Hermitage number 1, Rundle number 2, Niska number 3, Langholm number 4, and the Hills number 5. And keep in mind, a couple courses have dropped off, and we haven't reviewed every course in the area yet. So that's your top 5 at the moment.
And your top 5 is Niska number 1, Rundle number 2, Hermitage number 3, Langholm number 4, and Norwester number 5.
That's right.
So now we got to decide. We're going to add this course.
Is it going to crack the list first of all?
Yeah, exactly. Is it going to make the list, and where is it going to fit in? So go right ahead, Jeremy. You can take the lead on this one.
All right. Well, it's going to be a really, really tough decision here. You know, this is a course that I've played a number of times, and who am I kidding? Let me just tell you where it's going to go. It is my number 1 course, Daryl. You know, the tee pads, the baskets, the layout, the signage, the multiple layouts on UDisc, the events that happen there right now, bar none. Bailey's Disc Golf Sea Change Park of Disking is definitely on the top. So it's going to be at the top of my list. Norwester's out. Sorry, Norwester. We'll see you another day down the road.
Yeah.
How about you?
I guess for the challenge of the course, you know, as much as I enjoy playing Hermitage, I've had some great rounds there. You know, it is an easier course compared to this. So yeah, I think Bailey's is gonna. So SCBDBPBCCR is, or not the R because that's the review, is going to have to be number 1 on my list as well. So that makes it Bailey's, Hermitage, Rundle, Niska, Langholm.
All right. So there you go. Let us know how those courses rank to you. And Daryl, we are running long, and I think we should just start hammering away like we do at the end of these ones. What do you think?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So I wanted to say Limber Open is happening this weekend. I'm going down to see it or to play in it, actually.
Yeah.
So it is a tournament that's taking place on Saturday and Sunday, but they're really trying to make a big event in Calgary with this. They've got 3 courses for a 2-day tournament. So I'm going to be playing David Richardson Memorial, which is known as DRM. Yep. I'm going to be playing Curry Reservoir, and they're doing a pop-up course in a park called Elliston Park, and the park has a lake right in the middle of it, so it's going to feel a lot like maybe Aperture. They've got a beer gardens, they've got food, they're going to have bands playing music. They're trying to turn this into a disc golf party, and I'm excited to be part of it. So on that Saturday night out at Curry, beer gardens, all of that, I'm going to have a lot of fun. I'm excited. The only thing I'm not excited about is with these changes I'm making to my game. We're going to see what the scores look like, but I'm going to have some fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm not doing the event this weekend, so maybe I'll be the one sitting watching the scorecard, watching you, hopefully birdie a hole and be tied
Get
for
a
third.
tree.
And yeah,
birdie a hole and get a tree for the limber pine cones, all that
Yeah,
stuff. It
absolutely.
looks like Kristen's going to be watching too, so I'll try not to have the pressure of knowing that my friends are watching.
See?
Yeah, but at least I know if I do something well, I'll be like, you guys are celebrating with me from afar, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, good luck to you there.
Thank you, sir. So we'll put some reports. I'll put some posts up and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
And let's move ourselves on to the DGPT pros that are Canadian. What do we got?
So Thomas Gilbert, he was at the Croco Open. He was tied for 55th with Henrik Haaland and Joel Freeman. Big Germ and Nate Sexton and Ulibarri. And not Nate Sexton. He wasn't there, I don't think. What a great course that looked like.
Yeah, like Big Germ and all those guys, they were just loving it. Yeah, number one course for sure. And next up for Thomas is just qualified.
Yeah.
At the European Open qualifier on Monday.
Yeah.
So he's going to be playing at the European Open.
European Open, yeah.
Yeah. And then Max Rajitnik, he was 47th at the Crokel Open, tied with Alden Harris, Jesse Neiman, and Ezra Aderhold, and a bunch of others as well. And he's got the European Open next because he qualified on Monday as well.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Sophia Donica. She's currently touring around in Europe. She will be playing the European Open. She qualified at the Portland Open. And one thing we want to give a shout out for Sophia, if you don't follow her on Instagram, go and follow her because she has a new Tour Series Innova J disc with her stamp on it. So I don't currently bag a J, and I say currently because I'm going to be buying one of those.
Yes, for sure. And when Gabby was on the show with us, speaking of new discs,
yeah,
she was saying she was going to have some discs out, and they're out now. So she has an Pyro. These are all MVP Axiom discs. So she has a Pyro, a Crave, and a Detour available.
Yeah.
And they've got her name on them, and they've got a design with some bunnies. She's a fan of bunnies. They give her good luck on the course when she sees them.
Yeah.
So she has those out and available, and you can buy them to support her. And I've already told her in some comments there that when you're at Falcons, please save me a Detour and a Crave because I can always use more of those in my bag.
Yeah, absolutely. Support Canadian.
Yes. And then lastly, we got Chantel Badinsky, and she's still kind of just waiting for Ledgestone to happen. And we haven't seen a new event pop up on her schedule, but she might fit something local in.
Yeah. Awesome. Do we have any listener questions?
I didn't see any in there.
I didn't see any in there. No.
We're going to have to do an Ask Me Anything episode.
I think we're kind of open books. Everybody knows everything about us anyway.
Yeah, or if they just wait long enough, we will keep talking and tell them.
Exactly. We did have one vote for the secret word. Nobody else put a secret word in.
So I saw that one. That was was United Kingdom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I wanted to mention it to you when you say Colchester, United Kingdom. It's kind of not a thing that we say. It's Colchester, England.
Okay. Well, that's how it was listed, though.
And the flag that was attached to it was the England flag, not the Great Britain flag or the United Kingdom. But yeah, United Kingdom. I don't know. What else?
I was thinking possibly Chad's nickname is The Game. So it might be an easy one to put in there.
Yeah. We didn't. It didn't really come up in the chat.
You kind of like Spush when he had said that.
That was good. That was a funny word. I like Spush.
Or dartboard.
Spush. Well, it doesn't matter. No one's going to leave a comment anyway.
All right, pick
Calling
one.
out the chat again. Although Brendan did leave a comment on the fantasy episode, so thank you, Brendan.
All right, Daryl.
Not Brendan.
Put one
Rock.
together
Sorry.
that you like. What's that secret word?
Let's go Spush United Kingdom. No, I don't like that. Sorry, Sonia. Well, Mike likes the game.
All right.
Spush game.
Spush and game. They don't have to
Spush
be
game.
side by side. Just get them in the comments.
There
Get
you
them in
go.
as the secret word.
Okay. Spoosh.
So, Daryl, you said you're going to go out and you're going to get a J, are you?
I am going to get a J. I don't
And
know
what-
the numbers on the J, but I know it's going to fly really good for me because it's a Sophia Donica disc, so it's going to fly good for me.
Probably hole
I might
number
head back
12,
out.
maybe? Or
Well, I might head back out to Bailey's,
yeah.
try and get some redemption. What do you think? Well, we already said that hole 3
Yeah.
is an aceable hole. I know it's maybe a little bit too short, but if I just dial it back a little bit, I'll stand on the tee pad. I'll throw it out. I'm sure it's going to be overstable. It'll have some fade at the end. I'll throw it out over the OB.
Oh, over the OB.
Over the OB. I trust it. It's going to, we've got the backstop. We've got the trees that's going to protect it, but I'm not even going to worry about those trees. That disc is going to come crashing down. It's going to come flying out of the sky. It's going to hit those chains.
Yeah.
You know what it's never going to do?
It could never.
It would never.
Maybe it would.
No, it wouldn't. It
All
wouldn't.
right.
Chain
Chain out.
And I am ready this week.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.